everybody. Welcome to Ayesha's Oasis of Talk, or OOT for short. I'm Ayesha. Today I'm interviewing Pablo, the owner and founder of Generación Futura, or Future Generation. Pablo, can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, Ayesha, for inviting me onto the show. And a short introduction about me. Well, I'm Pablo. I'm based here in southern Spain. I currently live in Granada, which is a beautiful city. If you haven't heard of it ever, you should definitely come and visit. And I imagine the reason why Ayesha's invited me on is because I currently work to improve the quality of education in Spain through coaching, mentoring, and training. And that is currently what I do. Previous to that, I've been an English teacher for many years. I've also gone through the whole works of the TEFL world in terms of exam specialist, very young learner specialist, DOS or director of studies. And I've done a couple of talks as well previously. And outside of work, I'd say I'm a pretty normal chap. I like doing sports, I like climbing, hanging out with friends, and yeah, normal people stuff, I would say.
Right, brilliant. Okay, thank you, Pablo. Okay, today's topic is empowering teachers and inspiring students, an interview with the founder of Generación Futura, or Future Generation. By the way, I'll be referring to Pablo's company by its English name from here on out. Okay, Pablo, let's begin. Let's jump right into it with the first question. Okay, so can you provide some background on Future Generation and how the idea for the company came about?
Future Generation aims to improve the quality of education in Spain through, like I said, coaching, mentoring, and training programs. Obviously, all of that is aimed at teachers. Now, the belief behind this being that if we have or if we cultivate a healthy, fulfilled, happy body of teachers, that's going to, I believe, very logically have a positive impact on the current generation of students and the future generation. So that is the idea behind the company, and how it came to be, I'd have to say it came from what I believe to be a very basic and obvious need within us, which is to transpire, in a sense, you know, to contribute to society. So for me, also, like I mentioned, the classroom, or the reach and impact that I was having in the classroom, was no longer enough, or didn't feel like it was enough to me. So I felt I had to branch out and support fellow teachers and educational organizations to feel like I was contributing more than I was in class. So that's
commendable.
Oh, well, I'm glad you think so.
It really is.
I don't think I was really quite sure what I was biting off, in a sense, when I started it, but it's definitely been, and it is being, a very fulfilling journey. A lot of hardship along the way, as I'm sure anybody who's set out on their own project has experienced too. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I do miss the classroom, but luckily I still have some pockets of teaching in there, which keep my feet on the ground.
Right. Okay, Pablo, how does Future Generation work to improve educational quality in English departments and with bilingual teachers? Could you explain the specific programs or initiatives you have in place?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned, we work three main lines, which are coaching, mentoring, and training. Now, each line has its advantages, and what you'll find is that normally the final product that or service that we provide has a blend or a mix of all three somewhere down the line. So whether it's a school or an individual teacher or any other representation of a educational institution, the first thing we do is that we sit down together and we analyze the current situation and what the needs are, what the objectives are, and what the expected, or let's say what the desired outcomes are.
Okay.
Okay. And then from there, the next thing that we do is we sit down and we get to work on creating a tailor-made product or service that is going to cater precisely to those needs and is going to allow that teacher or that teaching institution to achieve those objectives and ultimately to obtain those desired results. Coaching and mentoring programs, so to speak, that I prefer to refer to them as processes, normally work one-to-one. So it'd be, for example, a private teacher, or I don't mean a teacher that teaches privately, but it'd be an individual teacher who approaches the company and who has some needs in their professional or personal life with specific objectives that they'd like to achieve. That's not so common, actually, that somebody comes with an objective very clear. That's normally part of the whole process, like clarifying what it is that they'd like to achieve. But they'd approach us, and then we'd go through the process that I was mentioning before. We sit down, we analyze the current situation, which you could see as situation A, and then we project to situation B, which is your desired place to be. And then basically everything that happens in between works through sessions.
Right, I see. Okay, so that kind of leads us nicely into the next question. What sets Future Generation apart from other organizations that work with teachers and educational institutions? What makes you different, Pablo?
I'm very glad you asked this, because it's one of those things whenever you start thinking about a project, that wherever you read, whoever you listen to, this is always a question that's there,
That's
right?
the question. Yeah, what sets
Absolutely.
you apart? Why should I go to you and not somebody else?
Absolutely. Well, I'd say that the defining feature, or what sets us apart from other institutions who do some great work as well. There's some fantastic projects out there doing great stuff for education in Spain. But what makes us different is the complete and total personalization of the product or the service that you're going to get from us. And it is completely and totally relevant to your situation, and therefore it is completely personalized for you or your school, department, team, whatever it is. So I'd say that's definitely the defining feature that sets us apart.
So I'm assuming that you are going to them, they're not coming to you.
Definitely more so at the moment, in the sort of beginning stages of the company's life. We've been going for a year and a month, in fact. So still at the moment, it's a lot of outsourcing, so to speak, or me having to go to find potential people with interest, who have an interest. But that doesn't mean to say that we haven't had teachers show interest in what we do, and even language schools that have approached us to work with us as well. So that's fantastic. That to me says that we're doing things well.
Okay, you're saying we, Pablo. So do you have a staff, or is it a one-man operation?
It's a one-man operation 90% of the time. However, I do have colleagues who I every now and then collaborate with, and who give me a hand in terms of, say, putting together particular courses. You know, I don't claim to be the messiah of teaching, you know, you're going to be further away from that. You know, precisely what coaching and mentoring allows me to do is completely disconnect from that. Yes, I might have some answers and I might have some advice and suggestions, but what coaching and mentoring allows me to do is to completely put that on you or the teacher or the client, and for them to find what would be the best solutions for their particular issues. So I basically enable them to find that out. If, for example, we're doing training and I feel like I do have something that might be productive, useful, effective, I offer it and I suggest it. And this is where I sometimes collaborate with other teachers and other colleagues from the sector.
Okay, I see. Okay, that clears that up, doesn't it,
Well, that
really?
is we. That's what I mean by we.
Right, right. I see. I just wanted to make that clear. Okay. Can you elaborate on the
Mm,
personalized and eligible training you provide for
mm,
English departments and bilingual teachers? So that was something I think I got from your LinkedIn, right?
mm,
So
mm, mm.
what topics or areas do you focus on during the training?
Hmm. Excellent. And I'm very glad you asked this because so far I feel like I've uh, delved into a lot of the coaching and mentoring
Hmm.
aspects of what we do.
Yeah.
But training itself, by personalized, that refers directly to what I was mentioning before. It would be a tailor-made course for
Hmm.
whatever your needs are as a team normally. So training, I said coaching and mentoring tends to be most of the time one-to-one at the moment.
Hmm.
Um, well, there's no reason why it couldn't be in teams. And training tends to be more in groups or departments. So it'd be a team of teachers, for example.
Right.
It's still as personalized. I still sit down with the director of studies or the team leader, or whoever is responsible for that team of teachers. And we still analyze the needs, the objectives, and the desired outcomes. And therefore, it is still tailor-made for all those things. And eligible training, I believe this might just be the translation I've found at the time, and I still haven't found a better one. In Spanish, the word is subvencionable, which basically means that the government can give you a grant, I suppose.
Okay.
Because in Spain, every company is obliged to provide training to its workers,
Hmm.
to its staff. So that to language institutions or educational institutions
Hmm.
is a great benefit because the training that we can provide, or that I can provide in this case, um, isn't going to cost them anything, in the sense that they'll pay for the course, but the government gives them credits that they can spend on this training. So without going into the actual bureaucracy of it or the process of it, it ends up being that the company's training is free for them.
Uh-huh.
So that's
Okay.
what eligible training means.
Right. Yes. I wasn't sure about that. Or like
Mm.
personalized I got, but the eligible training, like he needs to explain this. What's that?
All right.
Okay.
So maybe I need to go back and double check and find a better word for it.
Perhaps, perhaps. Okay. So again, what topics or areas
Oh,
do you
thank you.
focus on during the training?
Hmm. So again, this would be completely and totally personalized to the team's needs and their
Right.
situation. So
So there's nothing that is kind of overarching for
mhm,
everyone, and then you go to the personalized stuff. It's always what do you want exactly for your team or, for
absolutely.
yourself. I
Absolutely.
see.
The more courses that I put together, the more I see sort of running themes.
Right.
And I don't want to spoil few further questions or future questions, but that is something that I think I'm going to be working on in the near future, is actually setting packages, say it, or packaging certain courses with topics that do repeat, such as something that I often get a lot is student engagement and interaction. Um, Still get a lot of teaching skills. The topics for the courses come directly from the needs of the teaching team or the department. So I still sit down with whoever's responsible for that team or for that department, and we analyze, like I said, needs, objectives, and desired outcomes. And from there, we tailor make that course for them. So in a sense, it's almost like working backwards. I don't go with a packaged course already and saying, hey, this is what I sell, put it this way, buy it off me. I go the
Mhm.
other way around. Okay, what is it that you need? Let's put something that is completely personalized and relevant to you. And that way it's actually useful. There's the whole idea behind it. So having said that, there are certain running themes that I've found, and the more and more courses that I put together, the more I find similarities.
Yeah.
And those would be, it's a very roundabout way to answer the question. The topics that I often find are student engagement and interaction. I still get a lot of teaching for exams because the context that
Mm,
we're in here in southern
yeah.
Spain is very exam heavy.
Yeah.
sort of exam certifications heavy. So there would still be quite a lot of teaching or writing skills for Cambridge or other exams. What else have we had? Rapport. So, you know, there is a bit of a theme there, like interaction, um, engagement, rapport. I think all of those things are very sort of interconnected. The running theme there, right? Or interconnected, student engagement, student interaction, rapport. Um, Funnily enough, they come up quite often. But like I said, I've given a few examples. The topics that we deal with in each course are relevant and personal to the school's situation, really. So if you will, what I do is basically enable a space for them to really explore that and to really have a say into what it is that they would like,
Yeah.
and then work as closely as possible to that to provide precisely that and deliver that.
Okay. Okay.
And
That sounds
make good. I'm glad you think so. Basically, it's making good use of those credits, because again, I don't want to go into sort of the politics of it, but unfortunately, there's a number of courses on there that because companies have to offer training, and people just end up doing training that doesn't really offer them anything new. So that's
Mm,
probably something else that sets me apart from other companies. There you go.
there you go. Okay. How do you approach coaching and mentoring for teachers? What are some of the strategies or techniques you use to help teachers maximize their value and fulfillment in their profession?
Uh-huh. Right. This was okay. I think I first off start by making a distinction, Aisha, between coaching and mentoring for teachers
Yeah.
and teaching teachers coaching and NLP techniques to use in the classroom. I think those two are
Mhm.
very different things. And in
Right.
fact, one of the things that I do is teach or demonstrate or show coaching and NLP, neuro-linguistic programming techniques to use in the classroom. But that's a training course. That's very different to mentoring and coaching. So having made that first distinction, I think that leads me very well to, if you imagine or if you visualize a sort of a spectrum or a continuum where training is at one end, and
Mhm.
that can be very directive. If you envision or if you sort of think back to very traditional classrooms where the teacher has all the knowledge and tells you everything that you need to know or you have to know,
Mhm.
and you do it precisely the way that teacher's designed for you to learn it, that would be
Yeah.
at one end of the spectrum. And then the further away you move from there, you'd go past or through mentoring, which is where you maybe offer alternatives or suggest other possibilities. Um, Giving advice, interestingly enough, I still consider to be quite directive. So that would be sort of training. Then you'd move into mentoring. And
Mhm.
then further from there, towards the other end of the spectrum, you'd go into the coaching realm. And that is where you ask a lot more open questions, um, judgment free. So you're not judging the answers or the output that the student is given. Um, and you ultimately give a lot more freedom, autonomy, and agency to the student. Um,
The student or the teacher you're coaching or mentoring?
okay, to the student. So
Is
that would
there a
be
distinction in your mind, Pablo?
there is in my mind. So bear in mind the distinction I made before between training in coaching and NLP or mentoring techniques for the classroom. That would be the example that I've just given in the continuum.
Okay.
And for me, how I approach coaching and mentoring to teachers as the people receiving that coaching and mentoring, um, if you keep that last end of what I was saying, that last end of the spectrum, or this side of the spectrum, that is how I approach it. So it is very similar to how Generación Future Generation works. Say you, Aisha, were to come to me and say, "Hey, I'm a teacher, and I've been struggling with or having issues with classroom management, and to the point where it's actually affecting my my personal life. Like it gets to the weekend and I sit down to plan a lesson for that particular group or for that particular class, and I start dreading it. It comes to the day where I've got to teach them and I've got the shake. So I'm being very,
Yeah.
very extreme there. Say you were to approach me with something like that.
Right.
Step one, the same as I was explaining before, would be sit down. Okay, let's explore, let's analyze what the current situation is. And my role there would be to ask questions, to reflect and mirror what the teacher in this case is giving me or providing me, to encourage perspective, but not to facilitate it myself. And to foster that sort of space for the teacher to find that new awareness by being able to see things from a different place.
Right.
So you achieve all of that through open-ended questions, through a lot of active listening. You know, what are you saying and what are you not saying? There is a certain element of intuition there. You know, and there's a lot of skill involved, because at the end of the day, coaching is just one branch of personal and professional growth, you know, that drinks a lot from a lot of different
Yeah.
tools of psychology. So it just happens to be one other tool that you can use to develop, or that one can use to develop oneself. So that is how I approach it. We'd sit down and have a discussion around it, where I work hard to be as judgment-free as I possibly can. May I say, quite successfully. And blow my own trumpet there for a bit.
Why not?
And as open-minded as possible. Every question that I ask you isn't for my personal benefit or for me to know. Every question that I might ask is to open another option for you. It might be relevant, and if it's not relevant for you, well, then you'll tell me so. Well, no, that's nothing to do
Right.
with it, and that tells me, okay, well, it's not that way, then let's try another way. But like I was saying, it ultimately provides you a space where you have time to think, and you can bounce ideas off a wall, really, ultimately, or a mirror. And it enables you to find that new awareness and that new perspective, and find the best possible solution you can find at that time with the resources that you have at that time to the current issue that you have. So that
Right.
would be how I approach coaching. And mentoring is very similar, but there is a bit more space for suggestions from my part. I suppose you take advantage there of the professional experience I might have, and how that might be able to help you in any way. And both in coaching and mentoring, there's also space for observations. I can watch a lesson that you've taught, or an extract of a lesson that you've taught. Or say you're a DOS or an academic manager, I can sit in a meeting with you as a sort of a shadow, or your shadow. Or I can listen to an extract of a meeting that you've had on Zoom or something like that. But the principle is the same. It works the same way.
Yeah, it sounds as if, Pablo, you need to be a permanent fixture in many of our schools, right? They need to have you there, just, just in case of anything. Pablo is there to sort me out, both mentally and physically, or whatever,
No, I'm
spiritually.
gonna. Oh wow, that is beautiful, Ayesha. Thank you so much. That really fills my heart to hear that, and to hear that you value it in such a way. And ideally, we would have something like this,
Yeah.
and professional development would go through processes like this, as opposed to what it can often be. I don't mean to generalize, but what it can often be is it's imposed. This is what we need to do now, and this is what we have to learn. And again, I just don't think that really gives that space for people to grow in the way that they want to grow. So I totally agree that I think it would have a very positive impact in schools to have a figure like that, to have a coach or
Yeah.
any other expert in any
Yeah.
other discipline for professional development. And at the same time, I also want to nitpick at the word you said, sort us out. whether it be mentally, digitally, anything. And I want to clarify here that the role, I'm going to speak personally, the role of me as a coach is I'm responsible for my own actions in the coaching session. So I am responsible to deliver the best possible coaching I possibly can.
Right.
However, you'd be responsible to find and to explore and to analyze and to consider possible solutions to your current issues at the moment. So that responsibility is handed over to the client in this case.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
You're both working in tandem, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's got its own reasons and purposes for it being much more effective. I think we've all been at a place where if your mum or your dad tells you to do something when we were kids, if we go back that time, you know, you probably, or anybody in a position of authority tells you what to do, be it a friend, you know, what you need to do is talk to that other person and tell him so and so. It doesn't feel, I don't think it sits as well within us as if we come up with, it might be the same solution, but if we come up with it, it feels a lot better in a sense.
Yeah, and it also depends on the source. Where is that information coming from? You know, that all depends on how receptive you are to what they're saying, right? Okay, Pablo, let's move on to the next question.
Yes.
In what ways does Future Generation aim to inspire both teachers and students? And can you provide examples of how this inspiration translates into real life impact? That's a lot, isn't it, really?
It was a big piece to chew, definitely. And if you don't mind, you and our viewers, if you see me looking down, as I'm going to actually be looking at some notes that I made, because this question I particularly put a lot of thought into, and I wouldn't like to miss anything that I felt was important in the answer. So I'm going to try hard not to read, but if you feel that I am, I apologize in advance. So
we would much rather a thought-provoking answer than something just on the fly, you know, so give it some thought. And if you need to look at your notes, look at your notes.
Well, I will, with your permission, and thank you very much for giving me that option as well. I started off by wondering, Ayesha, what is it that you, or plural you, understand by inspire? So for me, it takes the form of that. So I might be answering, you know, real life impact. Maybe I'm not answering that, but I'm going to try and answer what it inspire means to me. And it takes the form of that sort of light bulb moment, whether it be in the classroom as a student or as a teacher, when you think, oh my God, that worked so well, or oh, I know this will work, or when you see sort of light bulbs turning on in the class, you know, because you haven't given an answer, you've asked a question, and your students are thinking about it, and clogs are working, you know, or as a student when you sit and you go, oh, I got to that all by myself, man. That's I bet I know the answer to that. And you think about the answer and you go, oh. So those light bulb moments are very inspiring. That ultimately that joy in learning, you know, I feel learning should be about joy, or you should feel joy when you're learning something new. That might also, you know, foster that hunger to learn more. And you know, to dream or envision big, despite whatever limitations there might be. You know, I don't think we should cut short any dreams that we might have, you know. Think big and then bring it down to the realm of the living and see what limitations there are, but dream as big as you want and as you can imagine. So all of those things I think would foster like or develop a lifelong love for learning. And for me to be in the presence of someone who is embodying those or that attitude is very inspiring. So be it a teacher or be it a fellow student who you can see is that open-minded and that experimental and that inquisitive and has that curiosity, would be inspirational in itself.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's I've answered how we hope, or how we aim, or how I aim to inspire teachers and students, and specific examples of what it means or how it translates into real life impact. So I'd say for teachers, it'd be to they come into being their own best professionals, if you see what I mean, right? So so that would be they'd feel aligned with their personal lives and their professional lives. They'd be they'd provide and model and honor the values that are important to them, not only professionally but personally as well. And those don't have to be the same values. You can have different values for different situations. And ultimately, that in their teaching practice, that would mean that they are teaching in a way that transcends and actively contributes towards their legacy, so to speak, you know. So that in real life would be, to me, like totally interactive and engaging lessons, when there's a space for those students to really explore and reach out and realistically contribute to something. I don't really count contribution as an answer to a question that I already knew the answer to, if you see what I mean. I think those are different type of questions. If I ask something like, I don't know, I'm going to go something very traditional here. What grammar tense is this? You know, maybe the reasoning behind me asking that question as a teacher is that I want to check who knows that this is present perfect, for example.
Right.
That's not a very thought-provoking question, in a sense. That's like a concept check question, or a testing question, ultimately. So if I'm testing, I might also be very easily judging who knows and who doesn't know.
Right.
So I try to move away from that. So real interaction might be something like, all right, what have you done during the weekend? And then a student might come up and say, oh, I've been playing football, or I studied, you know. So they might come up with lots of different grammatical structures, and then from there I might pull whatever our focus of the class is for that lesson. But that, to me, is real contribution. All right, so it'd be more aligned to that. So that also contributes towards excellent rapport and relationships within the classroom, much better communication. And if you sort of, as a teacher, if you extrapolate these things to outside of your work, you might find that your relationships and your rapport with, you know, family, friends, and people outside of work actually improves as well. So I'm trying to give more examples, more concrete examples. It gives you a raised awareness of your learning process. So yeah, I think ultimately for teachers, it would translate in real life impact. It would fundamentally change the way you almost interact with your students in the class and interact with other people at work and outside of work. And I think by having a raised awareness of your personal processes, just how you learn, how you manage your emotions, how you react to certain things, what sort of what things trigger you, all of those things ultimately I think make you more aware. That I've used that word already. They make you more aware of who you are and how you act, and I think that makes you a better person in a sense, or a better abled person to walk through this world in interaction with other people.
Yeah.
So
and the
to
impact
me,
you have on others. Yeah.
exactly. That would be for teachers. And, you know, can you imagine, or can you envision a teacher like that? You know, imagine what sort of impact they might have on any student, you know, to have somebody like that as a role model, to somebody that they are just merely in the presence of. You know, some students will pick up on more, some students will pick up on less.
Pablo, this is not a mythical creature. Well, teachers like that do exist.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And may I say, in tons and tons of them, you know. I suppose what I aim to do is to support all teachers, and ideally we'd have all our body of teachers would be closer to that mythical
Yes,
creature status, so to speak.
that's
Um,
ideal.
Ideal, absolutely. And
Mm.
I do have to be very specific here to our specific context in southern Spain, state school teaching. It
Mhm.
is improving incredibly fast, and I mean, they're doing incredibly well to progress from
Yeah.
where they've come from. But there is a very obvious there's a very
Lack?
obvious lack, there's a very obvious need for it, I suppose,
Mm.
because of historical events and just contextual situation. I don't feel it's
Yeah.
had the opportunity to develop in a way that other educational systems around the world have, or other educational sectors, precisely like TEFL has had the opportunity to do
Mm.
so. So that is maybe why you might have picked up on that underlining attitude that I might have been expressing there. Um,
Right.
so
Yeah.
just to clarify that, and if I may finish this question with how it translates in real life impact to students, to me, it is all about empowering them to really go wherever they want to go with their own
Mm.
learning. Yes, we still live in a system, or we still go through a system, an educational system that tells, somebody decides what you have to know, what is it important to know that you should know, almost how you should learn it also. So
Mm.
we get a lot of things that are fed to us.
Yeah.
And to me, real learning comes from having that freedom to choose what you're interested in, and then going and finding out yourself. And that is where, to me, real autonomy comes from, real agency,
Mm.
how real agency develops. And ultimately, yes, even if you have to go through the system, because I mean, it is also essential that you go through it, because you do learn a lot of things that are important to know. Um, you would come out of it, or you would cultivate through the whole experience an ability to and love for learning to learn. And
Yeah.
that, I believe, is a skill that will take you wherever you want to go in your future. So
Can't
that,
argue with that.
all right. So that is real life impact for students. Essentially, you'd be learning a skill that enables you to do, enables you to do whatever you want. But I don't want to be utopian either. There are limitations, but you would be much more prepared, and you'll have a much wider set of skills to get a lot further.
Okay, right. So let's
Thank
move
you.
on, Pablo. Right. How does future generation contribute to creating a healthy and balanced environment for teachers? I think we've touched a little upon this actually. What
Mm.
support systems or resources do you offer to ensure their well-being?
Okay, so I feel I might have to be a bit briefer in the following answers. So basically, I'd like this to be coming through our interaction, Ayesha, basically through very honest, open, and transparent communication.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the base for me. And like I said, judgment-free communication, the base for me, set up any sort of supportive, healthy, balanced environment for any relationship to be established. So that is my first aim, to sort of achieve that and build that in conjunction with whoever the teacher or team of teachers is or are. That would be step one. And again, like I said, to also then, once that's been established, to also enable the teacher or teachers to find their own balance, and to create that own sort of safe, supportive environment. And in a way, what's healthier than that? If you establish the settings, and the boundaries and the limitations and the
Mm,
rules, so to speak.
mm,
So yeah, I'd say through a lot of active listening, like I mentioned before, through a lot of attention and intention, And then to bring it down to more practical things, we have follow-up sessions. So after you've been through a coaching or a mentoring process or a training course, there are follow-up sessions to sort of check up on how you're getting on and to see if the changes or the awareness that you'd taken from that experience has actually lasted through time and what changes it's meant or it's brought.
Are those follow-up sessions face-to-face? Are they online?
You know, physical limitations permitting, yeah, face-to-face, I'm open to that. If I can travel to meet you face-to-face, I will. But if for whatever reason it's really just not practical or not possible, we'd do it online.
Okay, I see. Right. And with regard to your resources, do you have anything like any physical resources, like things that they need to read or look at or anything like that?
That would come again because of the nature of the service provided being so personalized. I'd normally pull from just my own bank of materials or knowledge or recommendations that I might think might be useful. And I just provide them as recommendations if the client thinks that they might be relevant and useful for them. Yeah, so to give you a specific example, I recommended recently the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Because this particular client was in that book, there's a concept that talks about being reactive or being proactive. Well, I think I might have made that up. Reactive, definitely. And the other one might be, I love this because of the language analyst in me. It was the word responsible is divided into response-able. So you are able to choose how you act towards something or about something. So it's making that distinction between being reactive to things that happen and being, in my own words, I believe, proactive and how you choose to deal with something. So this particular person was very much in justifying things and blaming and not really wanting to take responsibility for certain things. And once this person realized, oh, maybe it's not all out there and I've got a big part to say in all of this, I said, hey, there's a chapter in this that I found particularly relevant to what we're talking about. Here you are, Sue, if you find it relevant and useful. So materials normally come in the shape of that.
Right, I see. Okay.
Or it might be an article or a video or something like that.
Okay, yeah, okay. Right, Pablo,
Yes.
the next question.
Yes.
Could you share any success stories or testimonials from teachers who've been part of future generation programs? How have they benefited from the support and training provided?
Okay, so yes, I could definitely provide some. However, I'm gonna send everybody through, and I'm sure you'll put it in your description in the video, Ayesha, to my Instagram account or the Facebook account, and in there they'll find a section on testimonials or success stories, and they can actually read them. They're in English and Spanish, so for different viewers who might speak in different languages. But I could say that the ones that, you know, without feeding my own ego, because that's something I also try to do, is like, I'm not responsible for these people's success, because ultimately, like I was saying before, I place the responsibility on them to achieve anything. So ultimately it is their success. You know, I can be happy for the coaching that I've done. But their success is, you know, totally owed to themselves. So, but what I do love, and I do allow myself to sort of relish in, is the success stories of teachers who say, I can definitely feel, or I can definitely see before and after to the process. That to me, that there's been that change and it's been a positive change. To me, feels particularly good.
Right. Okay. Okay, so you'll have to give me your Instagram and Facebook.
I shall.
So I'll have to put all of that in the description box for everyone to check out.
Excellent,
right. So How do you measure the effectiveness of your programs and initiatives? Do you have any specific metrics or evaluation methods in place?
Absolutely, yes. Again, and I think this is a question that I can answer fairly quickly. Formally, we do have feedback forms at the end of each process, whether it be coaching, mentoring process, or a training course. And you can expect like a standard standard. There's questions like, what do you take from it all? What have you learned? What's a particular session that you remember? But it is your standard, let's call it, end of process evaluation questionnaire.
Okay.
That would be one. And then also in process, we also have perhaps less formal assessment tools or evaluation tools, where, for example, there are certain techniques where you grade. I'll simplify it a lot. You'll give a particular, so to take the example from before, classroom management. So you grade your classroom management, how happy or how content you are with classroom management currently for this particular group. And you might say, currently I'm at a 4 at the beginning of the process. And then halfway through the process, I might ask you that same question again. And you might say, oh, I'm actually at a 6 now. And then at the end of the process, I'll ask you again. And you might say, do you know what? I'm actually at a 9. So that is not such a formal tool of assessment, but it does give you a lot of information through the whole process.
Right.
And like that, I've just given one example, but there are other similar ways that you could sort of evaluate the progress of a session, or of a process, sorry.
Right. And do you have any kind of personal evaluation thing that you go through?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. At the end of the service, there are questions that are pertinent and relevant to my own actions and my own doing as a coach, a mentor, or a trainer. Definitely.
Right.
Because and I'm always very open to feedback. Because, like I said, I'm not the messiah whatsoever. I don't claim to be. And I do have that love for learning. So any feedback that anybody can give me, I'm happy to listen to and see what I do with it. Absolutely.
Right. Okay, great. Okay, Pablo, what are your future plans and goals for Future Generation? How do you envision the company's impact growing in the coming years?
Okay, so well, ultimately, I'd like to see that we are improving the quality of education in Spain. For that, there's a number of things we could be doing, but I suppose I'm going to be working very specifically on having a bigger reach with the public school system, and that work goes through the TEPs in Spanish, which are the sort of teaching centers. Sort of the hubs where public school teachers.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Is that CEPs? CEPS?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, it'd be CEP. It'd be THEP, but if you pluralize it, it becomes THEPs.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, that's where public school teachers receive their training from. So that is where I'd like to get more into and have a bigger reach in that sector, because ultimately public schools is where I feel there's the biggest need. As anybody from the education world might already know, private sectors tend to, or are better able to advance more quickly because they have more resources most of the time, generally speaking. So, I'd like to get more into the public sector. Obviously going to still be working on the private sector and delivering coaching, mentoring, and training courses there. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to be working on setting and packaging specific courses to at least have a base. And then I still think it very important to personalize that to whatever the context of the language or the educational institution is, but at least to have like a basic course already set up. That's going to be another one of my next steps. a big project. I'm going to actually be working as a teacher in a university as of October, teaching part of a master's in TEFL. So I'd like to approach them and actually create like do an actual investigation out of this and research the benefits and impact of coaching on professional development and the actual impact of coaching, using coaching techniques and NLP techniques in the classroom. So that is rather large. I'm going to be working, that's kind of like mid to long term. And then, like I mentioned before, there are some other fantastic projects out there doing absolute beautiful and wonderful things towards education in Spain. So I'm all up for collaboration and helping out. So in whichever way I can. So I'll probably be collaborating with a lot of other projects.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Be sure to come back if you want to speak about any of those other projects.
Oh, please invite me back.
Right.
I'll be more than happy.
It's an open invitation at this point, Pablo.
Excellent.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. How can schools, institutes, or academies get involved with Future Generation and benefit from your programs? Are there any specific requirements or criteria they need to meet?
Okay, very quickly again, just simply get in touch. I'll provide you my sort of channels of communication, my Instagram, Facebook, my WhatsApp. There will be a website that I'm currently working on. See, I'm learning how to develop a website as well, all on my own. So that is going to take a bit more time.
I'm hoping to do the same thing, Pablo. Like,
excellent.
I just want to know.
Yeah, right. I found it fascinating. So I thought, well, I'm going to embark on that learning journey and see where it ends up. So there will be a website that hopefully you can contact me through as well. And there are no requirements except for a minimum want and innate curiosity to develop or to grow. I believe very much in equal opportunities for everybody. So I don't really have any requirements that are gonna leave anybody out, essentially. Come talk to me. What is that you need? And let's see what I can offer. And if it's something that you think might be useful, fantastic. And if not, well, then I'm not your guy. But maybe I can point you in another direction.
That's right. And don't forget, everybody, this is the digital age. You know, Pablo is based in southern Spain, but that doesn't mean he can't reach out to you if you're elsewhere in the world. You know,
absolutely.
So get in contact if you require his services.
Excellent. Thank you, Ayesha. Yeah, absolutely, guys and girls.
Everybody.
Everybody. That's just the pattern that I have. You know, I refer to everybody as guys for some reason. I don't know where I picked that up from. But yeah, everybody.
Well, we all do the same thing, right? It's almost gender neutral at this point. Right. Okay. Lastly, what does the tagline inspire, transcend, and enjoy mean to you personally? And how does it reflect the values and mission of Future Generation?
I must say, Ayesha, all questions were fantastic and they were very thought-provoking for me. Perhaps this one was my favorite.
Oh, really?
Maybe, yeah. Because it is very, I would say it's ultimately perhaps perfectly aligned with myself. And, you know, yes, it is a one-man show at the moment, and it is my own vision and sort of mission. Future Generation stems from that within me. So in that sense, it completely shares and represents the values of the company. To me, inspire, transcend, and enjoy means how I kind of approach life in a sense. Or this is maybe more particular or more specific to my professional sphere. Because like I mentioned before, to be in the presence or to be able to share some time, some space with a person who is striving for their excellence. And what I mean by that is just very naturally or just normally trying to be their best. without forcing, without exigiendo, what's that in English? Without demanding themselves to be better or to be a sort of, just being the best they can be, to me is very inspiring. You know, be it a teacher, be it a mentor, be it a student, be it the person who cleans the streets, be it your baker, be it whoever it is. I think there is an art, and there's a beautiful word in Spanish, which is duende, which is kind of like that special feeling you get. In Spanish, it's attributed to flamenco and music and what you experience when you see somebody dance or play or sing. But I think that can be transported to anything else. You know, if you see somebody really giving it their best at any craft, at any art that they master, I think that is completely awesome in the sense, in the real sense of it, is awe-inspiring. So that is, for me, what I'd like to see in the classroom, and what I'd like teachers and both students to feel. To transcend relates more to the idea of legacy. You know, I think within us, within everybody, there's somewhere in there, you might not feel it, but I think innately everybody has that sense of wanting to contribute something for somebody else. It might not be for the world, but you ultimately do wish something good for somebody in your life, right? And you ultimately do want to do some good to somebody. So that, to me, connects to the idea of your legacy. You know, what are you going to leave when you're not physically here anymore? And not that I don't strive to be remembered by anything, but it's the idea of providing or contributing towards something bigger. That, to me, is transcend. And enjoy, it is just the joy of the journey itself, and just whatever you're doing, just whether you do it, you know, through the hardship, through the fails, through the mistakes, through the joys of it, through the ups and downs, just enjoy the whole process. I'm not saying that it's always easy to embody that. But at the end of the day, what's the worst that can come out of trying your best, you know? And I'm sure you'll learn a lot from it, and just put a bit of humor, a pinch of humor into everything, and everything suddenly becomes a lot more, a lot lighter, I feel. So that's something that I definitely do try and do in everything, whether it be personal or professional.
And on that note, let's end it here, guys. That's Pablo's duende.
Thank you. And my thanks to everybody who's remained with us for this long. Thank you very much, Ayesha, for allowing me that space to really just freely explore and answer. I hope not to have rambled a lot too much. And thank you, everybody, for your time and listening.
That's it for Oasis of Talk or OOT. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Ayesha's English Oasis for more content like this. Also, don't forget to visit my channel's community tab. And finally, I'd like to thank my guest Pablo for taking the time out today to do this interview. I really appreciate it. Until next time.
Likewise. Bye-bye.